He wakes up in an unfamiliar room and can't believe his eyes. When he looks in the mirror, he sees a prince straight out of a novel he once read. At first, he's shocked and slaps himself just to make sure it's not a dream. And when he feels real pain, he isn't scared at all. Instead, he can't contain his happiness. Then a system message pops up. He receives the so-called HP system, which allows him to gain HP from his internal organs through treatment. By investing the HP he acquires, he can unlock various skills or summon creatures. There's only one problem. His current HP is stuck at level 0. Still, he doesn't understand what it all means for him now. Back in the real world, he had opened his own clinic, but things didn't go well. During COVID-19, many of his patients got infected and blamed his clinic for it. Before he knew it, he was bankrupt and buried under debt. One night, after drinking too much, he jumped off a bridge. That's how he ended up in a new world, in a new body. Now he's finally free from all debts. But the moment he jumps out of bed in excitement, he collapses right back down. Something is seriously wrong with this body. His personal doctor, Garden, rushes in and tells him to relax and not make any sudden movements. Looking at his hand, he realizes that this body is much weaker than a normal 40-year-old's, even though he's a young lad. He realizes with dread that the character he's been given is always bedridden and appears only briefly in the novel. Not only this, he dies at the age of 22. With fear in his heart, he asks Garden about his age, and Garden replies that he's 21. He bites his lip upon hearing this. Before knowing that the character he had been given had that health issue, he was relieved to have left his debt-ridden life behind to enjoy his life as the Crown Prince. But now, with the dread, he realized that he has only 1 year to live. He thinks about the novel, where the Crown Prince had died despite receiving the best treatment in the world and the cleric's blessing. Yet nothing worked in his favor, and he still met his end. While looking in the mirror, he concludes that all of this points to one solution. With that thought in mind, he turns to Garden and asks him to bring as many needles as possible, no matter the size. He's decided to treat himself. He checks his pulse, aiming to understand the nature of his illness. He tries to concentrate on his 10 strange pulses, where the illness might reside. If one of them shows symptoms, there's a chance he's dealing with an internal injury. At this moment, Garden interrupts him, as he brings the needles he had ordered and laying them down before him. After inspecting them, he picks one up. Seeing him warming up the needle, Garden expresses his curiosity about the purpose of the needle. He haughtily replies that he's going to poke his body with it, leaving poor Garden horrified, who is thinking his master is about to harm himself. He pleads with him not to do it. Our boy tries to calm Garden by saying that he's doing this for a good purpose and asks him to have confidence in this matter, to which Garden reluctantly agrees. With that, he takes off his shirt and lies down on his bed. He knows that he needs to pierce the first needle into his most important breathing organ. To do this, he must calm his breathing. Near his shoulder is the point called Tai-in, which is the lung meridian of the hand. He carefully pokes that spot, while feeling a slight pain due to the needle's thickness. Now he focuses on acupoints, starting with the lung, then moving to cloud gate, and finally upper arm assembly. After completing the first set, he opens his eyes. It seems like he's been granted the skill to perform accurate acupuncture. By applying this technique to his body, he's able to recover his lung a little. With that, a ridiculous scene appears as happily dancing lungs give him 2 thumbs up, resulting in a gain of 100 HP, which is equal to 100 power. Our guy is quite baffled to see the screen in front of him as he reads all of this new information. Our boy is quite curious to see the status window in front of him. Seeing his state, poor Garden thinks that he's gone crazy, so he starts to cry again. Our prince orders him not to overreact. Ignoring his emotional doctor, he decides to target another acupoint near the shoulder blade. This acupoint is called the Yunmen acupoint, which he performs perfectly, resulting in alleviated feelings in his chest. He then targets several acupoints in his arms, which hurt more than before, but he endures the pain. Seeing him like this, Garden starts to pray to God for the health of his body and mind. Meanwhile, our guy takes the next step and pokes at the Yunji acupoint as well. With this, he stimulates various acupressure points, and his lungs feel like they're being massaged in a massage chair. He is irritated by the ridiculous notions his screen is displaying, as he is wishing that it would give him some HP points instead. Next, he focuses on the cheesy acupoint, which is located on his palm. With that last nail in the coffin, he successfully performs the acupoint treatment for the left lung meridian. As a result, it gives him 100 HP, and both of the lungs give him 200 HP each. It means now he has 600 HP. With this increase in his HP, he is now able to activate his skill. His screen asks him whether he would like to shop for some skills. To read it, he remembers all of those fantasy novels in which a skill related to being a warrior or mage is given to the protagonist, so he decides to check it out. Contrary to his expectations, the skills he is shown all relate to medicine and treatment. He thinks that all of the tasks he has done in his past life. To see the list, he decides to choose the pulse reading, which helps him diagnose the illness, which is the foundation of all treatment and prescription if done right. For 500 HP, he purchases this skill with the first stage. By acquiring this skill, he is able to roughly diagnose the health condition of his patients. He later gets the report at the basic overall health check report. To see that, he decides to read his pulse over again. He checks his report, then the system informs him that his body is in the worst condition and he has a minimum of 3 months to live. He thinks it is even shorter than that mobile contract. So, he again concentrates on his treatment through acupressure points. He wonders if inserting a needle in a clockwise direction while twirling it using the reinforcing and reducing method will work. He can breathe out during this process while extracting the needles with respiratory supplementation and a draining method. So he performs it and is amazed to see that his life has extended by 1 day with it. He is so excited that he starts to perform it on another hand as well, which results in him bleeding. Unlike last time, his system warns that he has overdone the acupuncture and recommends that he should do once in every 3 days. Now his organs are shown lying on the floor. He concludes that the patients need to be stable to endure the continuous acupuncture treatment, but his body is quite weak to tolerate such treatment. He then analyzes his situation and concludes that even though the acupuncture treatment is working, with his body's weakened state, he is only able to extend his life for 1 month and then die eventually. After contemplating for a while, he decides that he needs medicine to treat his body. For this purpose, he turns to Garden, who is a doctor in this world. He asks for a more potent ingredient, which makes Garden a little hesitant. He inquires whether they have wolfsbane root, but Garden explains that since they are in his palace, they need to acquire these items from the main palace. He says he will do it, but he wants to know what he plans to do with it. Our guy deadpans that he is going to eat it. Upon hearing this, the poor doctor begs him not to do it. He explains to the doctor that he is just doing it for his own treatment. However, Garden remains reluctant. To reassure him, our boy starts to explain the situation. He asks if Garden is already aware that wolfsbane root is a toxic substance, which Garden confirms as it is used in poison. He adds that he needs the daughter root of the wolfsbane, which is much smaller than normal. At that, Garden deadpans that it can cause his heart to stop. In response to this statement, our boy admits that it is true, but insists that he knows the method he is going to use to turn this tonic into medicine. This sounds bizarre to Garden. Our boy continues, saying that this process is called detoxification, which will help him turn this poison into medicine. He asks whether Garden understands now. Garden honestly replies that he doesn't understand a thing, but he decides to give it a go since it might improve his health. While he goes to the pharmacy to get the root, he thinks about how nothing is stopping the deterioration of his master's health. Now he is willing to place his hope in this new treatment. However, he determines to eat it first to ensure that it is safe for his master to take. After getting the root, our boy is able to make a tonic out of it. But Garden seems quite uncertain upon seeing this strange-looking liquid and comments that it is made from a poisonous substance. Then he starts begging him not to take it. Seeing Garden's pitiful behavior, our boy decides to scare him a little. So he offers Garden to try it out first. This statement brightened Garden's face, because he also wants to try it himself, so he happily agrees to test it. Seeing his eagerness to risk his life for him, our boy is struck with the realization that in the novel, Garden is someone who is too loyal to the Crown Prince. In the beginning, he was not even his doctor and started as an assistant. Though the passage of time sees every doctor who claims to cure him leave, but he remains unwavering. However, he pays the high price of his devotion, because in the novel, he is executed after the death of the Crown Prince, accused of causing his death. Looking at him, our boy thinks that he is someone who deserves a good life. But it is another thing to share his tonic with him, which he is not convinced to do. After a while, he finally completes the tonic called Ephedra Aconite Asarum Decoction. Garden is ready to drink it, but our boy stops him, saying that it should be consumed when it is cold. At this moment, Garden suddenly voices his concern about how our boy, the Crown Prince, knows about the recipe for the medicine. Our boy makes an excuse, as he claims that he saw a dream in which a mage told him about this recipe. Despite saying that he believes in our prince, Garden's expression says otherwise. He looks at the time and hurriedly gulps down all of the medicine, leaving the poor doctor completely petrified. He looks at his doctor and with innocent eyes while claiming that he has eaten it all. Suddenly his heart begins beating fast and he realizes that something is about to happen. At that moment, his system informs him that the consumption of the perfectly brewed Ephedra Aconite Asarum decoction results in the reduction of soreness and coldness in his body, as well as a boost to his metabolism. Not only this, but he has also awakened the Azrahan core energy. This term catches his attention. The Azrahan core energy is a technique developed by the Grandmaster known as Javier Azrahan and his noble subordinate, Lloyd. This technique is a symbol of the imperial family, which is passed down only to the direct descendants of the imperial line. As he resides in the Crown Prince's body, he must have been taught this technique from an early age. Now, he has unlocked the first level of this technique, which allows his mana circle to circulate around his heart, helping him increase and absorb mana. Now his mana is at 120%, while he needs 1000 HP to reach the next level. Therefore, he feels the mana circle around his heart, as well as the mana circulating through his body with every breath. He is quite excited to experience this amazing feeling. Suddenly, he feels a sharp pain in his heart, and it feels like it is going to burst from his chest. Seeing him clutching his heart, Garden becomes very concerned. On the other hand, he receives a warning that there is a chance that his heart will stop at any moment because the pressure from the mana circle is affecting it. When he realizes that his mana circle and the growth of his heart are out of balance, he guesses that the size of the mana circle may be the root of the problem, as it surrounds his heart. He remembers the condition of Rakiel, whose illness prevented him from training his mana circle from a young age. Consequently, the mana circle around his heart is constricting it, which could lead to drastic consequences. So he decides to take another measure, as he needs to increase the size of his mana circle. With that thought in mind, he goes to the realm of his heart and stands in front of the heart and the mana circle that is strangling it. He rushes toward his heart and takes the reins of the circle in his hands, while deciding to increase the speed of its rotation. The pain and pressure of doing this are too much for him to bear, but he remembers the failures of his last life. His clinic was shut down. He not only lost his patients but also started to lose his hair because of the stress from being in debt. Every kind of loan piles up in a way that he is on the verge of selling his beautiful house. With that thought in his mind, he finally does it. With this, he opens his eyes and looks at his doctor, who is quite concerned about him. His system informs him that he has been able to awaken his heart due to the positive stimulation. Afterwards, as a king of the organs, our guy's heart has a very flashy entry and is welcomed by the large intestine while the lungs call him shabby. Seeing them makes our boy feel annoyed, but his irritation vanishes when his system informs him that he is the only person in history to obtain something called the mana circle slot. He doesn't understand the feature but guesses that it must be something like the empty slot in a game. Meanwhile, Garden is still concerned about him and asks about his well-being, as he looked like someone who was suffering from immense pain. He raises the question of whether it is a side effect of the medicine. Our boy makes an excuse that he just choked on phlegm, but Garden doesn't buy it. He insists that our boy was in great pain while complaining that he is the one who is supposed to drink it first. At that, our boy retorts that he will be given poison next time if Garden is that eager to have one. It prompts a protest from his doctor, who doesn't mean it that way. He nonchalantly orders him to clean up the mess on the floor if his doctor doesn't want it. But before going ahead, he turns to his doctor and thanks him, which leaves the doctor totally shocked. He thinks that our hero might go crazy from consuming that poison. Meanwhile, on his way, our guy is more than excited to have something as amazing as mana slots. These slots are basically a place where he can store any material mixed with mana up to 10 liters. He needs to consume that material in order to store it. After meditating, he contemplates experimenting with this technique, but doesn't understand what to store at first. Then he sees the jug of water, and decides to experiment with it. Looking at the water, he recalled a term called as the median lethal dose, used to determine the toxicity of a substance. Consuming 50% of the median lethal dose could either kill a person or cause immense pain. He analyzes this and concludes that there is a chance of 5.4 liters of median lethal dose in the 60 kilos of water. According to his size and weight, it should be around 3.9 liters. So, he scoops up the jug to drink the water, but it's too heavy for him to lift due to his weak body. Anyhow, he drinks it while thinking he has a purpose in storing this in mana slots. He's surprised to feel that he doesn't feel full after drinking 1 liters of water, so he decides to fill his 10-liter slot to experiment further. After filling his slot with 10 liters of water, he discharges 0.1 liter and feels quite full afterward. He concludes that this makes him a human version of that camel that can store water inside itself. Now that he's experimented with the water, he wants to try this slot with tonic soup. However, he has 9.9 liters of water, and his body obviously won't withstand it if he releases all of that water at once. Then he gets an idea and decides to discharge the water with the Azrahan core technique, which helps him absorb, amplify, and discharge mana. Using amplification and discharge of this technique, he aims to release the water outside his body, rather than within. He concentrates solely on discharging the water from his body, and, much to his astonishment, it begins to work. The next step is to pour the water back into the jug, but when he tries, he can't hold the technique, and the jug breaks. As soon as the guards hear the sound of something breaking, they barge into his room. Meanwhile, he contemplates his experiment with the Azrahan core technique, as he has assumed it would release like tap water, but only for it to suddenly turn into a water cannon. Garden, along with the other guards, arrives and asks if there's been a terrorist attack. He nervously thinks up an excuse, then he claims that he smashed the jug in anger. It seems the Gussards buy his excuse, and one guard even asks if he's hurt. He nervously answers that he just has a scratch on his foot. The guard turns to Garden and requests him to escort him to room 2, and he agrees to do so after tending to his wound. While having a piggyback ride on Garden's back, he thinks that no matter how bad his excuse was, they still accepted it. He concludes it must be because he's the crown prince. Garden places him on the bed and excuses himself. He tells Garden to get some rest as well in return. When Garden is gone, he starts contemplating what happened when he was practicing the Asrahan technique. He was amplifying the mana and discharging it through his hand, but it resulted in an outburst like a water cannon. For now, he decides to sleep and tread carefully next time because he doesn't want anyone to be suspicious of him. Meanwhile, the Emperor gets wind of how he's hurting himself with needles and eagerly drinking poison, which infuriates him as he doesn't understand what his son is up to. The next morning, he successfully brews 10 liters of his medicine, ready to consume it all. But Garden is standing beside him, and he doesn't want to take it in front of him, knowing he'll probably faint at the sight. So, he requests Garden to wait outside for a while. Garden deadpans that he's just going to drink it, pointing out how much it hurt last time he consumed it. He even reminds Garden of the excuse he made, claiming he choked on phlegm. Garden expresses his concern over the fact that he's made so much tonic this time. Our boy makes an excuse, saying that he's experimenting with something, although he only intends to take a small dose since it's impossible for him to drink it all. At that, Garden tries to laugh off that indeed he can't do it. But our hero is quite impatient with his unnecessary concern and throws him out of the kitchen. Afterwards, he closes the door and gulps down all 10 liters of tonic in one go, storing it in his mana slots. Now, all he needs is to discharge it. He slowly begins discharging the tonic while going about his daily life. His organs seem to be improving as he discharges the medicine into his body, which gives him some HP points. Now he has 500 HP. He is quite tense yet eager to increase his lifespan. For this purpose, he releases the medicine in himself quite frequently. Meanwhile, in the organ dimension, the heart asks to large intestine for menu for the day. He answers that they have ephedra aconite asarum. Not only this, they have the same menu for the whole day, and even for the next day as well. At that, his system warns him that his organs are sick of having the ephedra aconite asarum again and again. He annoyingly replies that they'll have whatever he gives them. While having his meal, his system informs him that he has extended his lifespan by 50 days, so now he has 133 days left to live. He stands up in excitement, startling the maid. She begins apologizing furiously. He's confused, wondering why she's asking for forgiveness like that when she's only broken a cup. He gets his answer when she begs him not to whip her like last time. At this, he grows tense, as he realizes that this crown prince has been whipping the girl. He asks if he really did it, hoping she'll say no. She answers negatively, which brings him relief. But she adds that he didn't do it himself. He asks what she did to deserve such punishment. She replies that she dared to spill a drop of water on his sleeve. This makes him think that this crown prince must be a truly cruel person. He doesn't like the scenario as he sits down on his bed while he tells her to leave after cleaning everything which brightens her face. When she leaves, he turns to Garden and asks about his behavior toward him and the other servants, as he doesn't remember much about himself. Garden tries to sugarcoat things, but he warns him that if he does, he'll eat all of the poison right in front of him. At that, Garden tells him about his cruel and rude behavior toward the servants. He is quite frustrated after listening to all of this. He even understands why the guards had bought his ridiculous excuse about breaking that bottle. At that, one more question arises that why someone like Garden is so loyal to him. He asks Garden about it as he doesn't seem scared of him. At that, he softly answers that it's because he truly knows what kind of person he could be and trusts him in this regard. In a flashback, it's shown that when Raquiel was a child, he saw him protecting a small chick from the rain while he himself was drenched. Remembering this, he adds that he trusts Raquiel to return to his kinder self as his health improves. Thinking about Raquiel thanking him, Garden feels as though it's already happening. He offers Garden a pastry, which he accepts with some reluctance. In this moment, he vows to never let Garden be accused of his death. For this purpose, he will have to survive. Just then, someone rushes in and opens the door with a bang. Calling for him, this servant hurriedly tells him that the Emperor has summoned him. The scene shifts to the main royal palace, where Raquiel is shown approaching the court of his father. As soon as he greets his father, the Emperor immediately notices his awakened Asrahan technique. He also senses the nervousness of our guy. Meanwhile, our boy is quite tired from bowing before him and waits for him to get over it so he can stand up. The Emperor asks about his life in his side palace and whether it's up to his satisfaction, to which he answers affirmatively. Meanwhile, he is quite irritated at the fact that he has to stay bowed while talking to him. The Emperor then asks him what he heard about him as he is piercing himself with the needle and consuming poison at home. He tries to deny it. The Emperor starts to babble about how he is losing his dignity as a crown prince, and that if he thinks he can't bear the burden of being the successor, he can pass it to his second brother. Our guy, who doesn't expect this, politely refuses the proposal. The Emperor is quite angry at his refusal. However, our guy, on the other hand, pauses for a moment, while realizing that the Emperor has every right to strip him of his status as the successor, yet he chooses not to do it. Now he understands that why the Emperor asks him instead, because he wants to show the world that his son has done this to acknowledge his younger brother. Therefore, he understands this devious political maneuver, but he doesn't plan to go down without a fight, no matter how weak he may be. The emperor, on the other hand, is so furious that he stands from his throne and accuses him of bringing shame to their imperial family because he wants to keep the title of crown prince. Our guy scoffs at this because he doesn't care about the title. In reality, he has read the novel, and according to it, the second prince is not capable enough to handle the age of Chao that is coming soon. Consequently, he will cause the downfall of the imperial family and the empire. So he turns to the emperor and expresses his thoughts that he doesn't care about his title, but the prosperity of his family. So he proposes to give him a chance to prove that he is better than the second prince. Then the scene shifts to the side palace in which Garden is eager to know the reason behind the emperor's summoning to him. He explains everything to him while dropping the bomb that he is going to have a sword duel with the second prince, which makes Hugged Doctor pack his stuff so that he will leave after his master defeats him. Meanwhile, the emperor thinks about Rakiel's words and curiosity about this new side of his son. That's why he accepts his proposal. The next day, everyone in the empire gathers to witness the sword duel between the brothers. The girls aim for the second prince, Theodore. On the stage, our guy is found exercising for the duel when Theodore approaches him. He tells him that he doesn't need to do it. He worriedly says that he doesn't want him to risk his health because he wants to give legitimacy to the throne to his brother, because everyone knows the result of the duel. He adds that he doesn't want his brother to sacrifice himself for this purpose. At that, our guy is ready to start a fight and informs him haughtily that both father and son misunderstand his intentions because he doesn't have any intention of losing. Before starting the duel, there are murmurs of people about how weird it is for the crown prince to challenge the second prince because second prince has the upper hand because of Azrahan core in a single circle. They don't think that he stands any chance against the second prince. In a flashback, it is shown that our guy, who is exercising, has Garden standing beside him, who is thinking that this duel is just a joke. Our boy replies that no one expects him to win, so it is good for him as it puts less pressure on him. However, Garden says with uncertainty that he can win. Our guy notices his expression and knows he is lying. Then he tells him that he just needs to block 3 attacks from his brother in order to win the match. In the present time, Garden prays for the safety of his master. The match starts, and the emperor describes the rules. If our guy is able to defeat or withstand the attacks of his brother for 5 minutes, he will be the winner. Otherwise, the second prince will win the match. Now both brothers stand in front of each other, but Theodore intends to get through this match as soon as possible. As soon as the match starts, everyone is stunned to see the crown prince throw his sword away. They wonder whether he is giving up already. Seeing him do this, Theodore first feels relieved that he doesn't have to fight against his sick brother. But then he remembers that this will bring disgrace to him and his family. So he contemplates whether he should encourage his better to fight a little. But when our guy places the shield in front of him, he understands that the crown prince's aim is to withstand his weaker attacks for 5 minutes instead of attacking him. He smirks at that, while thinking that he will end this fight quickly. With this thought in his mind, he gathers the mana in his body and rushes toward his brother. The emperor analyzes his second son's attack and concludes that his first son won't be able to withstand it. The second prince even tries to attack from above so that his brother won't fall to the ground disgracefully. But to everyone's surprise, our dude dodges the attack. Someone comments that the second prince is kind enough to strike weakly so that his bring can easily dodge it. The second prince attacks him again with full force, which throws him away, but he is still able to stand. Our guy's condition is getting worse as his body weakens, but he is still determined to win the duel, as he has practiced dodging throughout his life as a cop. He now kind of hides behind the shield as the second prince rushes toward him while absorbing the mana better than our guy expected. However, our guy grins at this, as something might be going on in his mind. On the other side, the second prince is also fired up. He builds up his attack, and after leaping into the air, he crashes down right at our boy. But my guy easily absorbs the impact, because he had already trained his lower body for this moment. Not only did he instruct the blacksmith to customize his shield, but he has also stored the concoction in his mana slots for his little brother. His system asks how much he would like to share the discharge of that concoction in his body, and he replies, with 0.2 liter. With that, his brother's mana-filled body is filled with the concoction, and the second prince's face turns red due to extensive drinking, which causes him to hiccup. Theodore is so confused about what is happening to his body. Meanwhile, Rakiel thinks back to what he has read in the novel that Theodore is someone who can't stand any kind of alcohol, so he has added many types of alcohol to his slot and released it into his brother's body. Theodore is trying to pull himself up to win against his brother, but he doesn't understand what has gotten inside him. He wants to handle the situation and aim for the recognition of his father, the cheers of the citizens, and the title of Crown Prince. According to him, this is the best course of action for everyone if he becomes the Crown Prince. For this purpose, he has to win. With this thought in mind, he rushes toward his brother, who is stunned to see that he withstood the bomb of cocktail. Then he discharges another 0.1 liter cocktail bomb on his brother. The scene shifts as the second prince finds himself in the realm of his brother's organs, where he is served the drink by Hart, who tells him that he was given the drink by that person. he turns to see that the person is his own brother, who raises his glass to him. Seeing this, Theodore is completely baffled, as he assumes he must be hallucinating. Seeing his brother this drunk and stunned, the Crown Prince decides to help him. He is going to discharge the liquid he has stored in his mana slots at his brother. With this mana, he attacks him with all his might and throws his brother to the floor. Everyone present there is completely stunned by this unexpected turns of event before them. Witnessing the fight between his sons, the Emperor immediately recognizes that Rakiel has used the Azrahan core, which he had thought he had mistaken before. He can clearly sense that Azrahan core energy radiating from him, even with hundreds of people around. On the other hand, when Theodore opens his eyes, he finds his brother at his feet. His brother claims he has purified his impure mana. Theodore immediately recognizes it as the Azrahan core and questions how it's possible for his sickly brother to use it. The supposedly sick brother nonchalantly replies that he simply learned it a little late. Glancing at his fallen sword, Theodore mutters that he's lost, prompting his brother to remark that Theodore might still not believe it. Then he notices the blood on his brother's forehead. Our boy explains that he got the injury while shielding himself from his brother's attack. Hearing this, Theodore realizes his own attitude throughout the fight as how overconfident he had been, while assuming victory without acknowledging his brother's efforts. Then our boy gets up and asks about his brother's well-being. His brother misunderstands his words and expresses his feeling of being ashamed. However, Rakiel clarifies that he was actually asking about his condition. At that, Theodore takes a bow before his brother, as the acknowledgement to his skill as the Crown Prince in front of everyone. In that moment, a screen appears in front of our hero, making him cheer that he's finally done it. Misunderstanding his gesture as a victory over his brother, Garden becomes emotional upon seeing him. Our guy's system congratulates him for treating someone other than himself, revealing that he's acquired a skill called Requested Medical Treatment Fees. This skill allows him to gain a small amount of life expectancy each time he heals others. However, he notices that this method only extends his lifespan by a single day at a time, which sours his mood slightly as it's quite slow process. Still, he's willing to take it, seeing it as a more effective way to increase his lifespan than relying only on acupoint techniques or tonics. His thoughts are interrupted by his father, who asks if he used the Azrahan core in the fight, which he admits that he did. He then asks how he acquired it. He answers honestly that he doesn't really know, because he can't tell his father he acquired it as a reward skill to heal his body. His father, however, seems to believe him and adds that he had engraved this first into his body when he was born, but due to his illness, he couldn't use it. The Emperor adds that our boy has managed to overcome the shortcomings of his body and use it anyway. Thinking his father is praising him, he thanks him. However, his father interjects that all of this ruined his initial plan, which makes him wonder about the meaning behind his father's words. The Emperor turns his back to him, while assuring his son that despite his Oramos, he acknowledges his position as the Crown Prince, as he promised. Then he pauses, then warns him that he'll be keeping an eye on him to see if he's truly capable of succeeding to the throne. All of this makes our guy angry, but the Emperor is also frustrated by his lack of response, and shouts at him to show him some response. Instead of answering directly, the Crown Prince begins advising his father that he should keep sword fighting since his muscles are getting stiff. He adds that he needs to eat more vegetables and quit his tobacco habit. The Emperor demands to know who his son is to advise him like this, but our boy sincerely replies that he's only saying it out of concern for his father. A while later, the Emperor is seen riding in his carriage, while scoffing as he thinks about the change in his son's behavior. It seems that he's also worried about his son using Azrahan core technique recklessly, which could endanger his health. He reflects on the high expectations he's had for him, even he is sick, but now, after today's events, he finds himself holding on to a glimmer of hope for his son's future. Meanwhile, on his way back home, our dude is thinking about his own father from long ago, who died of a heart attack. Since he skipped studying to play when he received a call about this bad news, he regrets it now, but it's far too late. Thinking about the Emperor, who could still have a chance, he decides to protect his father as well, while using his skill which will also help to extend his own life. At that moment, Garden appears again, his face emotional, while requesting his master to ask him why he's crying. Feeling awkward, he asks him anyway. Garden expresses about his pride in his master for winning the fight, no matter how tough it was. He brushes off Garden's concern, while adding that he'll now rest as he has many things to do tomorrow. To sense his confusion, he explains that he has to meet someone the next day. Later, Garden is seen with a guy at one of the top 10 restaurants in the capital, called Sorrentino. The guy asks if he knows about this restaurant. He replies that he's a regular customer there. It turns out that the guy is none other than our Crown Prince, who has disguised himself. When the waiter comes to take his order, he gives a strange request, like asking for grape wine without grapes, and saying he'd like eat until sunrise. It seems like this is some kind of code, because as soon as he gives the order, the waiter instructs him to follow him. Both of them get up from their seats while Garden looks bewildered by what's happening. Our boy tells Garden to follow the waiter, saying he'll understand soon enough. After a while, the waiter leads them to a staircase. Garden is still confused about how the Crown Prince knows about this place. He himself knows of it only because he's read about it in a novel. Garden asks why they're there. He ambiguously replies that he's there to collect some treatment fees, leaving Garden puzzled by his words. Changing the topic, he asks Garden if he knows someone named Damien, to which Garden responds negatively. Instead of explaining further to his loyal doctor, he opens the door at the end of the stairs. There they find a battle arena where two fighters are battling each other as the crowd cheers them on. Garden asks again about this place. He happily replies that it's a secret location. Then, looking around, he spots a tough-looking guy in the ring. Garden asks if this is the Damien person he mentioned before, to which he responds negatively. Just then, the door on the far side opens, revealing the true protagonist of the novel he's been reading in his world. This person is Damien Kyan. Everyone is cheering for Damien as soon as he enters the Colosseum. The host tells his tough-looking guy to leave the place, then introduces Damien, who is going to fight the main match of the night. He is just 17 years old when he joins the life of the underworld and defeats everyone over the next 3 months, which earns him the title of the Sword Genius. Then they let Damien's opponent enter the arena, which is a roaring troll rushing toward him. Our boy, who had been watching the spectacle, is also afraid to see a real troll there. Garden protests as well, because he assumes that they are planning to feed a human to the troll. Meanwhile, on the lower floor, the berserk troll is quite furious and tries to attack him, but Damien gracefully dodges its every attack. Damien, who is looking intently at the monster, unsheathes his sword, and with one swift motion, he slays it in two. The spectators watching the show are in awe of what he has done. Meanwhile, our hero thinks that this guy is more notorious than he expected. Then he realizes it is expected of someone who is the main character of the novel, a sword genius known as the rival of the Grandmaster Swordsman in history. He then orders Garden to follow him and goes ahead. After a while, they are stopped by a bulky man who warns them not to proceed. But as soon as our Crown Prince keeps a brick of gold in his palm, the man lets them go inside. There sitting is someone, from whom our guy tries his best not to be scared. He confidently takes his bottle of painkillers in his hand and asks whether he is going to take these cheap painkillers. Damien then asks for the reason he is there, or whether he is there to sell medicine to him. He answers ambiguously that it is something like this. Damien, on the other hand, tries to shoo our guy away by saying that he has had enough of them. Our boy confidently says that these cheap medicines are not useful when it comes to treating the constant throbbing pain in the back of his head. Now he has his attention, and he starts to explain the type of pain he has, in which the symptoms usually start from the back of his head, and the area around his neck and head feels stiff and itchy. He asks whether his shoulders and neck feel numb. Our dude detects the suspicious look in his eyes for him, as knows these things about Damien. He explains again about his condition, while adding that he feels immense pain from the sides of his head and between his eyes. Not only this, he feels goosebumps on his body, and his eyes pop out. Our guy is also acting out all these things while describing all of his conditions. While Damien looks at him intently, our hero continues his melodrama, while trying to convince him that instead of getting to the root of his problem, he is relying on painkillers, which are not a standard form of medicine. Damien is annoyed by him and ponders killing him for a moment. In the end, he tells Damien to use his mouth to say something, which annoys him because Damien thinks that he is the one who is not letting him say anything. Anyway, Damien asks about the identity of our guy, who jokingly tells him the truth that he is the Crown Prince, which irritates Damien. To convince him, he lies that he is sent there by Kuzman, who is kind of a sponsor for Damien. He adds that Kuzman is worried about Damien, and nowadays they don't have a sufficient amount of ingredients because of the season. Damien doesn't understand a thing our boy is babbling and asks about the meaning behind his words. Our boy explains that he has found a new way to relieve his pain. Damien asks whether it involves new medicine. Our boy answers that this matter can't be treated with that medicine, so there is a need to eliminate the root of his pain. He asks him to strip off his shirt and lie down so that he can explain the process of treating him. Damien does what he is told. His back is full of scars. Our boy jokingly asks whether he is scared, but he answers negatively while irritated, adding that he is a warrior who has hurt people and vice versa, which shuts him up. He then scoops a junk of moxibustion and asks whether it is his first time seeing something like this. Our guy places moxibustion on his back. Then he fires the substance onto his back while Damien nonchalantly remarks that such a treatment doesn't scare a warrior like him. However, after a while he is trembling with the pain, which makes our boy joke about it. He seriously hopes that he can bear the pain. He thinks about this guy who has a curse mark on his back, which is the reason he doesn't leave the underworld. Whenever he goes to fight, he feels immense pain. To cope with this pain, he starts taking lots of painkillers. He borrows and has to have another fight in order to pay his debt. This is the life of the protagonist of this story. He curses Kuzman for inflicting this cruel cycle on Damien. He now tries to smear the mark on his back with this process. He happily thinks that if he is able to cure Damien, he will not only extend his lifespan, but will also have his support. He decides to treat the other gladiators afterward. After the treatment is over, he tells him to get up. He looks intently at the mark on his back, which he has successfully cauterized. He then asks about what he is feeling at this moment. With an expression of disbelief, Damien expresses that he feels quite refreshed, something he hasn't felt in a long time. Our boy explains that he needs more sessions of that treatment. During this time, he needs to avoid touching the blisters on his back, oily food, and overexerting himself. He is struck by the last demand. Our boy explains that he shouldn't fight, which meets with a protest as it is not something Kuzman will allow. At that, he consoles him by saying that he will take care of that matter. Now Damien understands that our guy is not what he has told him and asks about his identity with a baffled expression. Our boy proudly tells him that he is a crown prince, but Damien doesn't believe him and remarks that he must have a reason for avoiding revealing his identity. Our boy decides to let go of this matter and instructs Damien to do whatever he has told him to do. Besides, he strictly tells him not to go to the Colosseum no matter what is happening there, as it is a safer place for him. In the end, he adds that this is their only way to meet each other. Upon hearing this, Damien's face turns red, and he eagerly agrees with him. On their way back, there are hundreds of questions Gardine has about this illegal place, but he asks him to help him to find something. When asked what it is, he tells Garden to look for a man with black hair, a ponytail, and slit eyes. After looking in some places, he finally finds him in a bar. He sits in front of him and gets straight to the point, saying that he needs to buy Damien, so he should tell him about his total debt as well as the cost of breaking the contract. At that, Kuzman demands 9 trillion magan, which could only be afforded by someone as wealthy as a crown prince. Our boy explains that he is the crown prince. That person starts to laugh at his expense and tells him that if Raquiel is a crown prince, then he is also the one with the name of the crown prince that sells the medicine. Then he tells him to get lost if he doesn't want to buy medicine. When our boy leaves, he summons a man and asks him to investigate our dude to know about his identity. He even asks him to torture him however he wants in order to get that information. After 1 hour, the same person he sent to torture our crown prince is thrown in front of him, bleeding and injured. He is baffled to see him and asks who has done this to him. Then he sees the royal guards in front of him, who announce that the secret royal inspector is before them. Then our boy takes off his wig and shows him the royal badge. It is 1 hour ago that Garden and our boy are going somewhere, while being aware that they are being followed by Kuzman's man. He tells Garden to act normally so the follower doesn't suspect that they know he's there. He knows it is inevitable that Kuzman will send someone to follow him, which is why he approached him in the first place. The next moment, when the stalker turns, he collides with the royal inspector. The royal guards have accused this stalker of attempting to assassinate the crown prince. Now they stand before Kuzman. Our boy has returned the badge to the secret royal inspector, while Kuzman tries to grasp the situation. But before he can react, our boy orders his royal guards to raid the place, especially to capture Kuzman. With his order, everyone rushes to subjugate the place. Witnessing the scene in front of him, Garden thinks that the crown prince really has changed. Now he worries about his country's security, which is why he's raiding underground organizations. On the other hand, the crown prince seems more than happy to see the people around him. If they get injured, then he has a chance to heal them. He'll have an opportunity to extend his lifespan. Meanwhile, Kuzman hides in the corner while contemplating the situation. He wonders about the crown prince's interest in buying Damien while he's trying to escape. As he rushes toward the gate, he decides to stay hidden until things cool down. But as soon as he opens the door, he finds himself at the edge of several swords. Meanwhile, our guy makes a bet with his doctor that he will come out from this gate. And now he demands 500 magan from the poor doctor. He then comes forward and starts to babble about how important it is to pay for one medicine. When Kuzman yells at him, while asking what that crazy shit he is talking about, he clarifies that he comes with good intentions to clear out the medicine expenses of Damien and offers him a good deal, but he is the one who throws it away. Hearing this, he is infuriated and about to hit him, but his face meets the iron fist of the royal guard. Next moment, he is warned to stay down. Finding no escape route, he decides to use the capsule bomb that contains poison in his mouth and spits it out. After 5 seconds when he has planned to spit the capsule. In this way, everyone in the vicinity will be paralyzed, while exposed to the capsule, and he will escape and kill the crown prince. He is content with his perfect plan. He is about to split the capsule while counting down from 5 to 1, but before he can spit it out, Raquiel shuts his mouth with his palm. Kuzman realizes that he knows his every move. At that moment, the time for the bomb to explode has reached, and it explodes in his mouth. The paralysis process begins, and he needs to take the antidote as soon as possible. With trembling hands, he tries to take it out from his pocket. But our hero, who reads the novel and knows everything about him, takes the antidote from his hand and asks whether he wants to know his source of knowledge. To the horror of this goon, our dude drinks the antidote in front of him while poking him, as he emphasizes that he isn't going to tell him about it. To taunt him more, he remarks about the antidote's bitter taste. While Kuzman is quite desperate to get the antidote, our boy carelessly throws it on his back. He implies that he is not going to give him the antidote when Rakiel was the one to poison him in the first place. He intends to do it in order to use his medical treatment skills to extend his lifespan, as now he has the antidote in his mana slots. Now under the 5th thoracic vertebrae, he pushes about 1.5 inches on both sides, pushing the heart transporter points. With that, Kuzmin throws out the poison. Then he discharges the antidote inside of him and waits for it to work. After a few seconds, he loses consciousness, as our dude has successfully treated him. To reward him, his life extends by 118 days. He then orders his guards to arrest them. Now he is going to complete his main goal for coming here. The scene shifts to the gladiators with Damien as their leader, who are fighting with the guards and succeeding in injuring many. At this moment, Rakiel makes an appearance in front of him, and he recognizes him immediately. The scene changes to the dream in which a young Damien is shown in front of his dead mother. He knows that he is dreaming about that day when he was left alone. At this moment, someone tells him to wake up, and he opens his eyes, finding himself in front of Garden, who introduces himself, and Damien also tells him his name while shaking his hand. Our crown prince interrupts their introduction and asks both of them to follow him as they have many things to do. Afterwards, they arrive at a Moxibustion clinic. They find other gladiators there as well. Damien asks about the place where they are. He answers that it is a treatment clinic. Another gladiator expresses his wonder about his reason for being so nice to them, as he doesn't only shelter them in his palace while rescuing them from Underworld, but is also going to treat them. He thinks, while looking at them, that his main reason for treating these gladiators is to free them from their curse marks. While doing this, he can extend his lifespan, as most of them are young people, which helps him boost his own lifespan. He starts by saying that he is not going to do it out of goodwill because everyone knows that he himself is quite a sick person. One of them chimes in that everyone in the kingdom knows this, and our guy promises in his mind that this person will get the most painful treatment. Anyway, he continues saying that since the doctor failed to find a cure for him, he is now doing it himself. Then he turns to Damien and asks whether he gets what he is trying to explain. Damien answers that they are there to be his test subjects, which he confirms. Everyone is quite worried to hear it, but our guy counters by asking Damien what he felt after the last treatment. Damien answers that he felt relief from nerve pain. Upon hearing this, everyone feels relieved if Damien is providing the testimony in Crown Prince's favor. Then he asks everyone if they feel uneasy about getting treatment. When no one answers, he instructs them all to strip off their shirts and lie down on the beds. After 6 days, every gladiator is shown in the worst condition. They are constantly throwing up and breaking out in cold sweats due to not taking painkillers. Our boy is quite nervous to see the results of his treatment. He turns to Damien and asks if he is feeling dizzy or throwing up. Damien answers that he is, but he's holding up. Now he understands that Damien is an exception because he is the protagonist of the novel for a reason. He then dismisses everyone to their accommodations but instructs Sergio to stay. He comments on his bad condition because of withdrawal symptoms, but Sergio tries to say that he's fine. Then he shows him the needle, saying that he is going to help him with it. Meanwhile, he is thinking that he's not sure whether the acupressure treatment will work on Sergio or not, but Sergio is the one who has been taking the painkiller for the longest time, so he needs to be the test subject for this. He considers targeting his running point near his stomach. While he's thinking about all this, Sergio rises from his place, looking quite powerful in his form. He then jumps on our guy and grabs his throat with both hands. Rakiel is having a harder time breathing, but Damien comes at the right time and knocks Sergio away from him. Raising his hand to help him up, he asks about his well-being, which Rakiel answers positively. He looks at the unconscious form of Sergio and concludes that, because of his severe withdrawal symptoms, he is highly sensitive to any minor stimulation. This is why a small needle will hurt him like a sword. To resolve this problem, he needs thinner needles. After a while, he is seen in his study, reading a letter from a blacksmith. To summarize the letter, the blacksmith apologizes to him for being unable to make multiple thin needles as fine as thread. The letter adds that only a dwarf artisan could achieve such a feat. At this moment, he gets a notification from his system, warning that he is stressing too much, which could lead to nervous illness. His organs are trying to cool down the heart while trying to give him a hint. Seeing him lost, his system reminds him that he can summon a monster or unlock a skill by using his HP points. He then selects the Summon Gacha option for the cost of 300 HP. While confirming the purchase, he hopes to get a good summon. His system instructs him to verbalize the qualities he wants his summon to have. He demands a creature that can provide him with many needles of uniform thickness. After recording his request, his system provides him with 3 options with bizarre names like a happy summon that oinks, iron that discharges, and a cactus that discharge. Then his system informs him that one of these summons has a 100% ability to meet his demand, one has 50%, and one has 0%. Upon reading this, he realizes that this summon is a kind of gamble, so he contemplates which summon to choose. After thinking for a while, when he can't decide, his heart frustratingly tells him to choose the cactus, and he agrees. While his system prepares his gift, he pleads to God for the right summon. Then, a very cute porcupine is dropped onto his palm. Now his system is informing him about the qualities of his new summon. He can alter its size by feeding it either red sunflower seeds, which will make it huge, or blue seeds, which will return it to its original tiny size. Its name is Goswem, and it has the skill of producing an infinite number of thorns and attacking its enemies with them. He politely asks his summon for 3 thorns, each of different colors, and it provides them to him. He checks the white and brown ones. The white one has a mild pain effect, so he decides to use it for the gladiators. However, he's a little cautious of the black one, as it has a higher pain level. He doesn't even test it and decides to try it on someone else later. Then he goes to his clinic, warming up the needle. Seeing him, Garden asks about his summon, and he introduces it to him. At that moment, he makes up a story and tells Garden to ask the remaining details from the summon itself, then leaves the place. Garden is quite baffled by this situation, as he recognizes this creature as a summon monster. According to legends, there was a legendary builder around 300 years ago who had summoned monsters as his aid. They are known as very rare and mysterious creatures, and Garden doesn't understand how his master got one. Now he realizes there is something about his master that he doesn't know. Inside the clinic, Sergio apologizes to our guy for the incident yesterday. He shakes off the apology, while telling him that he will now no longer feel the pain, as he has pierced many needles into his body. He is surprised to hear that, because Sergio doesn't seem to feel anything. He then shows him his arm, where he performed the acupressure treatment. Afterwards, he has been performing this treatment on everyone. To get the rewards from treating Damien and the other gladiators, his life expectancy increases by 171 days. Not only that, but he also levels up his skill due to using it on a larger number of people. This information makes him quite happy, as it is clear from his body language. Seeing him so happy, Damien doesn't understand his true motives, as he wonders why the Crown Prince is ecstatic to see them recovered. Now that Raquiel is done with their treatment, he decides to come up with another plan for them. The scene shifts to the Emperor, who is getting a report about his son. He is informed that the Crown Prince has 14 gladiators as his bodyguards, who are now officially recognized as royal guards. He is giving them salaries and other benefits for their work. At that, the Emperor starts to laugh at his son's expense, who should be resting in bed, but instead, he is getting a private squad. However, the next piece of information tenses him, as he is told that the Crown Prince has a habit of inviting every servant and guard to his side and poking them with needles. The Crown Prince is seen playing doctor with the numbers of servants. He asks one of them whether the needles he is piercing into his body hurt, and he gets a negative answer, despite the guard's expressions saying otherwise. Then he announces for a next patient. A few days ago, Damien is seen in front of our Crown Prince, who asks about his feelings during the moxibustion treatment. Damain answers that it still hurts a little. At that, the Crown Prince gives him the good news that he no longer needs the treatment as he is fully cured, which leaves him confused. He then thanks the Crown Prince, but he meets with a protest from the Crown Prince. Raquiel asks him to hear him out first. The Crown Prince has a proposal for him, as he wants Damien's sword skills on his side, because he doesn't want his skills to go to waste. Then, he offers him a position as his bodyguard, with a smart salary and other benefits, instead of relying on emotional things like loyalty and friendship. He knows that Damien will advance in his sword skills and soon reach the Swordmaster syndrome, where someone becomes extra sensitive and endures even more pain than he had experienced before with a curse seal. So, he wants Damien to stay close when that happens. So, he is offering him the job as an excuse to keep him by his side. He adds many other perks to the job contract, but when Damien doesn't respond, he offers a 4-day work week, which prompts a cheer from everyone behind Damien. Upon hearing his job perks, everyone offers to hire them as well, under the pretense that it is their way of repaying their debt by protecting him. He dryly comments that they want to do it because the salary and other benefits come with the job, and they sincerely agree that it is the case. He is glad at their honesty, as he thought that people who claim to be loyal often hold grudges. So, he ponders on this matter and decides to hire them, as the original royal guards were loyal to his father, so it will be better to have his own private squad. He then gives them the name of SRG, and they are quite happy about it. He turns from them and thinks with a sigh that his lifespan still doesn't last much longer, as he has only 18 days left, besides having a very weak body, which is unable to search for more patients. After a while, he is seen in his study room, where he tells Damien and Garden that he is going to set up a clinic in his palace. At that, Garden startles him by saying that his cause is noble, to start a clinic as he wants to help sick people. He totally agrees with him and tells him that he wants to treat the people living within the side palace because he doesn't think common citizens living outside the palace will feel comfortable visiting it. Garden also agrees with him. So, he explains that he needs this because in this way, the word of mouth will serve as advertising for his clinic, so people will come to his side palace's traditional medicine clinic to receive treatment. Now, in the present, he is frustrated to know that everyone is quite healthy, and after treating 500 people so far, he has only received a 2-day bonus life. With his frustration, he exclaims that he needs a very sick person. Suddenly, he stops as the idea hits him. He orders Garden to collect data about the families of the servants he has in his palace. He is sure there must be some sick person among their families. He is quite frustrated to see that they all seem healthy, as only 10 pages remain. He doesn't have much hope, but he still keeps checking. He is interrupted by Damien, who expresses his disappointment with the Crown Prince. He is baffled to listen to him. Damien asks further whether he sees patients as the tool. Damien adds that he understands that he needs the patients for research, but now it looks like he is searching for someone on their deathbed. At that, Garden tries to defend his master as he must have some plan. However, the Crown Prince corrects his doctor, stating that Damien is right about his assumption. Damien protests, saying that he was rude towards Garden, while Garden tries to defend Crown Prince by saying that Damien is rude to him. Seeing this, the Crown Prince kicks both of them out of his room and checks the remaining 10 pages. One page catches his attention. Someone has written in this questionnaire about an 8-year-old boy whose body starts to tremble and foam at the mouth once or twice a week. The doctor as well as the cleric checked him, but it was of no use. Upon reading it, he is quite happy to finally have found what he was looking for. The next day, he gets to meet the young boy, who is a little scared to see him. He approaches him closely and greets him by telling him to call him Raquiel. He understands that this is George's first time visiting the palace and meeting the Crown Prince, so he needs to make him comfortable. He then shows him a candy, which brightens the boy's face, but instead of getting it, his expression turns sour. The boy tells him that he can't touch the Crown Prince. When asked why, he answers that it's because he is cursed. He adds that this is the reason he is bullied by other children and called weird. Upon listening this, Raquiel tries to encourage the kid by saying that it isn't the case. The boy explains that when the kids were teasing him yesterday, he tried to defend himself but lost. Afterward, everything became dark, and he started to tremble, while feeling like someone threw him to the ground. When he woke up, he felt weak. At that, the Crown Prince suddenly hugs him, saying that he is brave for enduring all of this. With tears in his eyes, George supplies that he shouldn't touch him because of the evil spirit residing in him. In that moment, the Crown Prince begins to diagnose him. His system informs him that this person is completely healthy, besides some symptoms of seizures caused by irregular brainwaves. He diagnoses George with epilepsy, but the problem is that he doesn't know the cause behind the irregular brainwaves. He tells George that he is not strange. To sense his disbelief, Raquiel happily tells him that he is the Crown Prince, and he is always right. Now, he is struck with what to do next, as he doesn't know the cause of the irregular brainwaves, and he doesn't have any tools to detect it, like an MRI machine. Suddenly, George calls out to him, and he tenses to see that George is having a seizure. He immediately lays him down, despite the protests of Garden, who wants him to stay away from the boy. Damien also raises his sword. To see their reactions, he shouts at them, while telling them that George is just sick and needs care, as he is in pain right now. He orders them to get him a pillow. Afterwards, he lays George on the pillow, and everyone looks at him. Garden offers to wipe the foam from his mouth. He answers that he is not in his right mind, as George might swallow the hand towel. They can't do anything right now until the seizure is over. Suddenly, he notices mana coming from George. He understands that it's because of his Azrahan core technique, which is sensitive to mana. He then decides to use this technique to detect the cause of the epilepsy. He then searches for the cause inside the flow of mana. He checks the nerves but can't find anything, though he is getting tired. Afterward, he is standing in front of George's heart and rushes to it. Finally, he catches the source of the irregular brainwaves, which are happening in the vagus nerve. He then orders his subordinates to bring him a blanket to cover George up. He also instructs them not to wake him. In the process, he, who also overexerted himself during the diagnosis, and falls down. The people around him are worried to see his condition, but he feels relief in having found the cause of George's illness before losing conscious. After a few hours, he wakes up with a heavy head. He assumes that his Azrahan core was activated to its maximum when he was asleep. At this moment, he is startled by Damien's presence, who informs him that he has been sleeping for half a day. He asks about George and is told that George has woken up but is now feeling tired. While getting up from his bed, he thinks about how the diagnosis he performed was successful through his Azrahan core. Now he can start George's treatment by stimulating the vagus nerve. As he is putting on his coat, Damien asks with surprise where he is going in the middle of the night. He answers with a maniacal expression that he is going to be struck by lightning. After a while, he, along with Damien, is seen in front of the main palace. The guards are shocked to see him there. He asks the guards to escort them to Sir Xanatis's room. They head ahead to reach Sir Xanatis's room, who is the palace mage. He is astonished to see them there in the middle of the night and asks about their purpose to be there. The Crown Prince then playfully asks the mage to strike his back with lightning magic, which leaves the poor mage totally baffled. The mage remembers yesterday when he had visited the Emperor, who was telling him how the Crown Prince has been acting differently and strangely in recent days. He says, while smiling, that he is worried about what his son might do next. Seeing his expression, the mage thinks with annoyance that the Emperor has also become a fool when it comes to his son. In the present time, the boy is shaking the annoying mage furiously while asking him to hit him with lightning. The mage thinks about how crazy the Crown Prince has become. He protests to the prince that he can't do it, as it might kill him, which would make him accountable for his death. The crown prince explains that he doesn't need to go that far. He just needs a bit of electric stimulation for 3 hours. The mage is equally annoyed by this new demand. Lightning magic has destructive capabilities, but the prince wants him to minimize it and maintain control it for 3 hours, which requires precise control. He asks the prince if he has any idea that his request is quite difficult. The crown prince answers that he totally understands, which is why he came to him, because no one else could achieve such a feat besides him. Hearing this compliment, the mage is half ready to fulfill his demand, but he's still hesitant, wondering what if he hurts him. The crown prince consoles him by saying that he guarantees if something happens to him, mage won't be accountable for his death, while pointing to the guards who will witness it. He further explains that he is doing this to save someone. The mage then agrees to his demand and asks when they can start. The crown prince replies that they need to do it now. Then he sits in front of the mage, who asks if he's ready. He nods, while secretly thinking that he can't just experiment with such a dangerous treatment on a child, so it's better to experiment on himself. When the mage starts to hit him with a precise amount of electricity, the crown prince is going to convert the electric currents into electrodes. Then, he will transform them into electrical signals and intends to use them to correct the irregular signals in George's vagus nerve. In the end, he will control those signals. While analyzing his plan, he is in awe of Azrahan core technique, which makes it possible for him to be successful in one try. He asks the mage to stop, who teasingly tells him that he could do it all day. The next day, many people who are known as gossip mongers are seen in front of his room. One of them opens the door, and now everyone is standing in front of George and his doctor, the crown prince. Rakiel shows George a needle and honestly tells him that it's going to hurt a little, as it is a medical procedure. He then reassures him that it won't hurt much, since he already pierced one needle into his neck, and George didn't even realize it. He adds that what is coming, however, will definitely hurt. Then, the mage hits Rakiel with electric magic, and he gathers the electricity in his heart. Garden feels like he's about to faint from seeing his master's condition, but our dude's focus remains on the gossip mongers in the room, as he is hoping that they will spread the word about his method of treatment everywhere. After receiving the electric current, it's now time to transfer it into George. However, he tenses up when he detects that George's flow of mana is becoming erratic. With dread, he realizes that George is about to have a seizure, so he must correct his nerve before it happens. George asks how much longer he has to stay like this. He answers that he has only 3 minutes, or if things go south, just 1 minute. But overall, the procedure will take 30 minutes. For a moment, he thinks about pausing the treatment, but he decides against it for several reasons. Because the gossip mongers present there, who could fuel strange rumors, and the uncertainty of how much longer the mage will continue to help him. He finally resolves to proceed and turns to the mage, asking him to increase the power level of the magic 3 times. The mage warns him that it will hurt more, but he brushes off his concern. However, this time, he is struck by lightning, yet he focuses on his task at hand. He needs to absorb the mana in order to complete the procedure as quickly as possible. He searches for the carotid to place the electrode, while knowing that only 5 seconds remain before the seizure will start. Finally, when it seems like George is about to have a seizure, he instead turns normal and looks at the crown prince. Everyone, especially George's sister, is amazed to see that the seizure doesn't happen. Meanwhile, the crown prince is quietly tired from the constant electric stimulation. However, his system congratulates him for successfully performing the vagus nerve operation. He receives a 3-day life bonus as a reward. Not only that, his Azrahan core technique levels up by surpassing his body's limit, now reaching level 2 in a single circle, which also increases his mana circle. He further gets a notification that his lungs and large intestine have absorbed metal energy and gained immunity over wood magic. To use this wood energy, his new organ, the liver, awakens. At that moment, a very angry and arrogant liver enters the organ realm, making the large intestine happy that he's no longer a newbie. But instead of being happy, the liver delivers a slap to the large intestine and deadpans that he can't make him a newbie if he doesn't have a death wish. Next moment, he grants our boy 300 HP. Our boy's other organs also grants 500 HP after welcoming their new counterpart. Not only this, it seems like his organs are quite happy, as he has additionally received 300 HP because the organs are having a birthday party for the liver. He is quite pleased to get all of these achievements and extra HP in one day. He wonders if there's something more, but his system answers negatively. At this moment, George addresses him, while asking whether he's a weirdo. That little kid explains that normally when he feels strange, he will lose control, but it doesn't happen this time. At that, Rakiel explains that it won't happen from now on as he will not suffer from any kind of fit. He even promises that claim over his crown prince title. Listening to all of this, George's sister standing in the crowd becomes quite emotional. George turns to her and hugs her lovingly. Rakiel tells everyone that it was a successful operation, which makes them emotional too. He hopes that these people will spread the news of George's treatment everywhere, so soon he will face a swarm of patients, which will result in bonus life. Suddenly, his vision blurs and he loses consciousness because of the stress his body has gone through. At night, he regains consciousness and sees Garden, Palace Mage, and Damien standing in front of him. He jokingly asks whether they don't have any work to do besides watching him sleep. Garden states with a sad expression that this is the case with him because Raquiel has been sleeping for 2 days, which leaves him baffled. The mage also interrupts, while accusing him of intending to execute him. He further asks, with a horrified expression, that how he's going to explain to the Emperor about the Crown Prince's condition, which happened because of the lightning magic he used on him. Our dude nervously apologizes to all of them. Then, he asks about George, and at that moment, George appears in his room. He explains that he nags Garden to allow him here. Then he gives him a handmade wooden locket. Seeing his effort, our guy feels a little ashamed because he didn't help George out of goodwill, but to extend his own life. He tries to say something, but George interrupts, claiming that he wants to help others just like Raquiel. This statement leaves him totally stunned. He then compliments his necklace and states that seeing George healthy is the greatest reward for him. Then he dismisses everyone, saying that he wants to rest a little more. So everyone leaves the room while George bids him goodbye. When everyone leaves, he looks at the necklace with annoyance, while wondering who would want to wear something so plain. However, as he sleeps, as if mocking his own statement, he finds himself wearing it. The scene shifts to the house of a commoner. A mother asks her son about his reason for being there as he should be at work. The boy enters, while greeting his parents, and tells them that he is on special leave from the Crown Prince. It seems like he is part of a group of gossip mongers, and the Crown Prince has given him leave to spread news about his strange method of treatment. Afterwards, the boy informs his parents about how he and others are given a special 5-day leave. He also mentions that the Crown Prince doing strange things, like wanting to treat people. Then, he shows them the paper. It is a kind of pamphlet in which the Crown Prince announces the opening of his medicine clinic in his side palace and offers all kinds of treatment for free. Meanwhile, in his palace, our boy is excited to see the result of the rumor. Garden interrupts him, saying that it's time to go. On their way, Garden comments that he wakes up early today. He replies that it's because it's his first day at the clinic. Garden informs him that he has stocked all the medicine, including licorice, which is difficult to procure. At that, our guy praises him, while adding that he needs licorice for many things, so he instructs him to stock as much as possible. Garden nods while expressing his wonder about where the Crown Prince learned things like making potions and acupressure treatment. He adds that he wants to know because he is also a doctor. In the end, he expresses that he has sacrificed many sleepless nights researching the basis of the methods the Crown Prince is using, but he hasn't found any clues, which upsets him. As a doctor, Raquiel also understands Garden's frustration over not knowing these new things. He then reveals that he is from another world, where he ran a traditional medicine clinic, which is why he knows everything. But Garden doesn't believe him and insists him to tell the truth. Raquiel insists he's telling the truth and asks why Garden is so persistent in knowing the truth. Garden answers with determination that he wants the satisfaction of becoming a better doctor, like Raquiel. In response, our boy tells him that he is already doing it and orders him to go ahead. As Garden walks away, Raquiel reflects that Garden is the reason he has come this far. Then his thoughts shift to his medical clinic, and he prays there will be lots of patients. He worries that the stress will cause him PTSD. He opens the door, ready to welcome the patients with a cheer. At first he pales seeing no patient in the hall, but then Garden points out for him to look below, and he is shocked to see tons of people standing outside, trying to make their way in. After a while, he's diagnosing a patient when his servant asks about his work. He instructs him to check on the other patients to see if they need help. Next, he turns to the maid, who isn't preparing the medicine correctly. He knows the nursing system is not up to par and that it will take time to settle down. After seeing several patients, he gains enough experience to level up his pulse reading skill. Now he can not only assess the overall health of a patient, but also detect symptoms related to the internal organs. In this way, his internal organs are going to help him detect any problems with the organs of the patient by consulting the patient's organs. The scene shifts to his organ realm, where everyone is ready to have a blind date with patient's organs. The heart claims that he is not interested in anyone younger or older than 4 years old. However, the liver points out that they are going to meet all the older people. Seeing them, everyone is disappointed by the idea of consulting. Despite their reservations, they give the results. They didn't find any abnormalities, aside from slight constipation, but the liver informs them that this person shows symptoms of hepatitis, so he needs to give up alcohol. The liver further explains that the old man's liver is likely to survive only for another 5 years. He is amazed to hear this diagnosis, as it forms the foundation of every treatment. Determined, he now decides to awaken the other organs as well. Turning to his patient, he informs him about his liver's condition and prescribes medicine for 10 days. At the end, he deadpans that the man should stop drinking, as he's likely to die in 5 years if he doesn't. Then, he orders the patient to quit alcohol as the Crown Prince, or he'll be thrown into jail. The man is completely petrified upon hearing this. Afterwards, he dismisses all the non-critical patients, sending them home. Then, the servants turn to him, while showering him with praise and apologizing for the mistakes they've made. He nervously encourages them, while acknowledging their hard work. Meanwhile, he is thinking about establishing a proper nursing system, as it will be necessary if they admit more patients. He wishes his nurses from the modern world were here to help. At this moment, Garden bursts through the door urgently and tells him that there is a patient who needs immediate care. The son of the family pleads with him to save his mother. After laying her down on the bed, he asks the son about her condition. The son replies that she's had a fever since the afternoon, and her condition has worsened since then. After checking her veins, he is horrified, as he realizes that she might be suffering from the illness that killed 40,000 soldiers of Napoleon's army. With dread, he recognizes her condition as epidemic typhus fever, which is an acute febrile illness caused by Rickettsia bacteria infection. He hesitates for a moment to accept it, but the liver informs him that it has indeed seen Rickettsia bacteria in her blood. He gulps upon hearing this and asks the patient's son about the last time she took a bath. The son replies that she took a bath yesterday. He then asks about her bedding condition. The son answers that she is a tidy and clean person. After finding no clues there, he asks whether she had been anywhere where she might have encountered lice or fleas. The son then answers that she had slept on a farmer couple's bed when her carriage broke down on her way back home 15 days ago. To analyze her situation, he concludes that she must have epidemic typhus fever. He then informs her son about her condition, while explaining that she is infected by lice. Seeing her age and temperature, he concludes that she might have pneumonia, or could suffer from central nervous system damage, or might develop necrotic body parts. He then instructs the maids to clean the patient with warm water and change her into patient clothes. He orders them to burn her clothes and bedding, take a bath themselves, and burn their own clothes as well afterwards. He even threatens to fire and punish anyone who disobeys his orders. He then orders her son to inform about her condition to their family. Later, he stands in the kitchen, where he has made a kudzu root tonic soup, which is a type of fever painkiller, for his patient. He then gives her the first dose of the soup. 3 days pass, and they care for her continuously, but unfortunately, her condition does not improve due to the persistent high fever. He now understands that the soup dose is not enough for her condition. She needs a balance of yin and yang, as her yin energy has been drained. He realizes that he must find medicine with strong yin energy to restore her balance. He thinks for a while about where he can find such a medicine. Realizing that it may be in his father's secret treasure vault, he orders Garden to prepare a carriage for him. He isn't sure he will find it there or not, but he intends to use his privilege as crown prince, as he hopes his father might help him. After a while, he's seen greeting his father, who asks why he has come at this late hour. He requests permission to enter the secret palace vault. Sensing his father's confusion, he reveals the condition of his current patient, who is severely ill. His father questions how this is related to his request to visit the vault. He explains that he is searching for a medicine to cure her and might find something there. In response, his father expresses disbelief because he suspects that he's making an excuse to access the vault for his own gain. Meanwhile, his father seems amused by his son's predicament, a fact our crown prince notices, and finds it quite annoying, given his father's antics. He tries to reason with his father, while insisting that he doesn't have time to prolong this matter. However, his father remains unconvinced by his outburst, believing that since he didn't receive a proper education, he shouldn't suddenly be treating people. His father asks him to prove that his diagnosis is correct. At this, our boy asks whether he wants to test him, which the emperor affirms. He then orders our boy to diagnose the condition of Royal Knight Captain Roberto, who is recently ill. If his diagnosis will be correct, he will grant him access to the vault. He checks the captain's pulse while his father, who is quite arrogant, assumes that he won't be able to determine his condition, as only he, the captain, and the captain's wife know about it. After a few seconds, our boy announces that the captain has partial baldness, which shocks both the captain and the emperor. The emperor points out the captain's full and shiny hair. This prompts our hero to remove the captain's wig in response. This leaves the captain in a state as if he is about to break down. Then our hero turns to Damien and orders him to proceed. On their way to the vault, Damien remarks on his harsh move to remove the captain's wig. He carelessly replies that he'll treat him next time. During their discussion, they finally reach the vault. The guards hand him the secret pass to enter the vault. He asks what happens to someone who doesn't have this. The guard explains that it activates the attack magic within the vault and will also track his time inside. If he exceeds the allowed time, he will be killed. Finally, he tells him he is allowed inside the vault only until daylight. Shocked to hear this, he realizes that they have only a few hours, so he rushes toward the vault, only to stop as the guard who informs him that he's headed toward the intermediate area. Annoyed that his plan didn't work at all, he remembers that his father has only granted him access to the basic area, where he can take only one item. Frustrated, he complains that his father tricked him, while not mentioning the level restrictions when he tested him. He is still annoyed with his tricky father and resolves to avoid taking his help in the future. Once inside the vault, they are surprised by its vast size. He sets an alarm for the entire night and turns to Damien for help. Damien asks how they can locate what they need. He replies that they're looking for anything with ice properties. Once Damien finds anything related, he should write down the location so he can check it out later. They then split up to search both sides. However, our guy is unable to find anything useful and hopes that Damien will find something. When his bodyguard stands in front of him, he asks about the list. Then Damien hands him the list, which he realizes he can't read. So, Damien leads him to the location of the shield which he found. This is the only thing in the vault with ice properties. He looks at the description of the shield, which is a basic item. When infused with mana, it can manifest an ice shield. It looks more like a buzzer to order coffee, but his eyes stay glued to the description, which details how it manifests an ice shield when infused with mana. With that, he begins to infuse his mana into it to test it. It starts buzzing with his mana, and he's careful not to infuse too much, knowing that it has a limit for manifesting mana to deploy the shield. Then he infuses his mana into it again, this time more carefully, like he perfectly set the shower temperature in his previous life. He starts to feel a chill, and finally, an ice shield forms in front of him. He happily turns to his bodyguard and tells him that he'll need his help later. Now they need to go to his bonus HP, in other words, his patient. The next moment, the guards see him coming out of the vault with his bodyguard, and notice the sword at Damien's belt. One guard asks if they chose that sword, but they're interrupted by the crown prince, draped in numerous jewels and a velvet cape worthy of an emperor. When the guard looks at him, he annoyingly informs our dude that he's supposed to be free of all these embellishments. Later, inside the side palace, Garden wakes up from his sleep due to some noise and sees that Damien and the crown prince have returned. Seeing them together, he feels pleased, while believing that Damien is capable enough to protect Raquiel, and that Raquiel has also found a friend in him. With this thought, he makes some tea and brings it downstairs for them. However, he spills the tea as soon as he sees Raquiel activating his shield while Damien attacks him with his sword. He exclaims that it's an act of treason. Let's go back a few minutes, when the crown prince told Damien he needed his help with something. Damien, who was truly impressed by the crown prince's passion to treat people, was ready to obey any of his orders. But as soon as the crown prince asked him to hit Raquiel with his sword until the ice shield breaks, his expression shifts to annoyance. It was the same argument Garden had seen from his room but didn't fully listen to. Damien protests, while asking if the crown prince really wants to label him a traitor. But the crown prince explains that he needs him to strike him with the sword so that the shield will break, and he can use the residue left from the strike in the medicine for his patient. At that, Damien suggests putting the shield on the ground so that he can strike it more easily. The crown prince explains that it's impossible because he needs to constantly infuse mana to maintain the shield. Damien then concludes that the crown prince needs him to break the shield without harming him. Being a smart person, Damien demands a bonus for each strike he lands, while explaining that what the crown prince is asking him to do will mark him as a traitor, and he can't do it without compensation. Raquiel snobbishly asks whether Damien wants payment for hitting him. Damien politely responds that he truly respects the crown prince for all he's doing for everyone, but this is a different matter, and he wants to be paid. Our dude really understands his demand, as he knows that Damien has faced many financial crises that led to his misery, so it's understandable for him to ask for something in return. Raquiel then hugs Damien while happily saying that he's just as he read about him, which makes Damien's expression sour. With that, he opens the shield and tells him that Damien will be granted a day's salary with each strike. Damien expresses his hope that he will get paid on time while striking him with his sword. On the other hand, to witness that scene in front of him, our poor Garden has lost consciousness. After the first strike, Damien tells him that he is going to increase the strength of his attack, as his current power might not be enough to break the shield. Damien stops his strike to see the crown prince, who looks like he's in great pain. Damien reminds him that he hasn't attacked yet, but the shield isn't broken by his strike. Damien asks whether he needs to increase his strength. However, our boy accuses him that he is increasing his bonus amount by striking with a weak strike. It fires up his bodyguard, and this time, he finally breaks the shield. As soon as he sees that, our hero starts dancing like crazy at the prospect of more bonus life. When he turns to enter the palace, he finds the faint form of Garden, and wonders why he is sleeping there. After a while, he is seen making a typical kudzu root tonic soup, in which he has also added fragments of the ice shield. Then, he decides to store some in his mana slots. His system informs him that he has gained a new skill called Tonic Concoction. With this skill, not only will the tonic he makes be 10% more effective, but he can also analyze its effectiveness, toxicity, and other side effects. When he places the tonic, his system asks if he wants to utilize his skill to analyze it, which he agrees to do. The system then reads the description, while informing him that the tonic can restore water energy and reduce fever, with other cautionary instructions on its use. He is quite happy to read this, as it means he no longer needs to experiment the medicine on himself. Upon analyzing that it can recover water energy, he is sure it will aid in the recovery of Madame Dinrior. With this determination, he brings the soup to her room. He asks about her well-being from her son, who answers disappointedly that she hasn't recovered a bit. Seeing her energy further depleted, he hopes this soup will work. He coaxed her into taking the tonic, though she complained that it was a bit bitter. He explained that bitterness often comes with effective medicine. He then took care of her for the next 10 days. Everyone was astonished to see him feeding the patient and taking care of her by himself. That earned him much respect from his subordinates. Meanwhile, he fought through his own fatigue, wanting to survive just a little longer to earn that bonus life since he was almost there. With that, his system congratulated him, informing him that he had finally cured his patient's epidemic typhus fever. Thanks to his great effort and the respect he earned from his subordinates, his medical treatment skills leveled up, now increasing his effectiveness by 1.5 times. Along with his patient's recovery, he also gained a life expectancy of 146 days and 8 days of bonus life. Upon realizing that he could earn rewards this way, our boy impishly considers creating a false image of himself, one that would earn him praise and respect from those around him. This, in turn, would bring him even more bonus life.
Today's video ends here. Comment next if you want the next chapter. Like, share, and subscribe for more recaps. Full video available on the channel.